You're joining me here today at Barston Lakes. Now, a few of you might already know that I've just returned from Italy to fish the World Club Championships, and the World Club Championships as a competition seems to be very difficult for a lot of the English clubs to win. I mean, I don't think it's been won by an English club for over 20 years, which is quite strange in my opinion, because the quality of the club teams in England really is fantastic. Now, when we qualified as a team Dorking, we found out the venue was in Italy, which straight away is going to be very, very difficult. The Italians, in my opinion, are some of the best anglers in the world, and to go to their backyard and beat them was going to be very, very difficult. But I always knew that I was fishing with 5 great anglers in Dorking, and we've always had a chance. Now, we had some great help when we were out there. We had a Hungarian guy called Solihull, and he gave us some great help. Like I said before, we got 5-6 fantastic anglers fishing, so we always knew we had a chance. Now, we went out for 2 weeks, so we had a lot of time to practice and perfect the methods that we were going to be using. All saying that, to beat the Italians in Italy was still going to be a massive, massive task. So we went on, we practiced for 2 weeks, we got a method we think was sorted. We fished a match. It was fantastic fishing. It was on the Solihull Canal. We were fishing for big bream, lots of skimmers, and it was really fantastic fishing, all pole fishing. And after the 2 days, after the weekend's fishing, we actually managed to beat the Italians and win the competition. Now, in my opinion, to beat the Italians in Italy and to win was one of the best things I've ever done in my angling career. It's one of them, it really is a big achievement. Now, since I've been back, I've been asked a lot of questions about how we fed it, how we fished, how did we beat the Italians in Italy. Now, it's very difficult to explain exactly what we've done on an email on Facebook. So I've dragged Ben out of the factory today, even though he's not feeling the best, just to show you a little bit via camera about how we fed and how we fished. To start with, we had 2 mixes of our bait. We had a ground bait mix with very little lean, virtually all ground bait, a dark breamy ground bait, which was very important, and we had a lean mix. Now, this was all 100% lean with a big quantity of grey lean. Now, both of these mixes done a total separate job. First of all, you had the ground bait. Now, this was to put into the peg and to give us an initial reaction, so that when we started the match, when we first went in, we got an initial reaction of fish, maybe catching some small skimmers and odd bream initially. The lean mix, the 100% lean mix, was a total different job. We introduced this into our pegs so that we got a reaction towards the end of the match. Now, this lean, if prepared correctly with the right amount of grey lean and the right amount of water, won't break down for an hour, hour and a half, or even 2 hours, depending on how hard you squeezed it. So with the 2 mix and introduced correctly, we had bait in our peg that was breaking down at every stage of the match. Towards the start of the match, we had our ground bait, which was a real initial reaction, and we had our lean breaking down towards the end of the match. Now, after we put all this bait in the first 10 minutes, we had reaction going through all the match, so we could catch early over the ground bait, and then we could catch towards the end of the match on the lean. And we were putting a big quantity of bait in. First of all, we were putting in 7 litres of ground bait by hand, which added up to about 20 balls, depending on how big your hands are. So we threw them in over a bit of an area, because bream, as you know, they won't come in on tight areas. It's always best to put it over a little bit of an area so they can relax and they can feel settled. Secondly, then we cupped another 6 balls in, but this was with the cup, very accurate, exactly the same mix, exactly the same ground bait over a tight area with a lot bigger quantity of particle bait. The 20 balls we threw in was not so much particle, just an odd joker, an odd bloodworm, an odd caster, but the 6 of the same mix we put in was very, very rich, maybe 400 or 500 mil of particle bait. So we put those 2 mixes in to start with, and then the main mix of lean we made up into another 20 balls and cut this in again, very accurate, and this had a high quantity of particle in. But like I said before, this wasn't going to break down for an hour to hour and a half to 2 hours. Once you mixed all your bait up all together, it made probably 45 to 50 balls of bait, which we introduced in the first 10 minutes. In international matches, you only get 10 minutes to put your bait in, so it was quite physical fishing. But after you put your 45 to 50 balls in, you were sure and you were sat there confident that you were going to catch for the whole 4 hours, which was very, very important. the style of the match and the quality of anglers, if you had any bad spells, you kind of felt like you weren't going to win or maybe in the top 3, which was important because it was such a low scoring match. Now, methods like this, where you're putting in this quantity of bait, isn't just for venues in Italy and venues abroad. This sort of tactics can work in England great. I mean, I'm here today at Barston Lakes, and I've used methods like this in the past, and it's worked fantastic. So all in all, being really aggressive, big quantity of bait, where you're fishing for lots of bait, was absolutely brilliant, and we managed to beat the Italians in Italy. So I've just showed you the ground bait and the lean without the bait in it, without minter balls. I will cut away in a minute and I'll show you the 45 to 50 balls we put in at the start of the match, all made up with the bait in, and I'm sure it's going to be quite an eye-opener for you. So I'm just going to get on my seat box, make them up and show you again. Right guys, I've explained to you a little bit about the match I fished in Italy. You've seen the ground bait and the lean. You've seen me put the particle mix into the mixes. Now this is the end product. Now, I know it seems a massive amount of bait, but on venues like we fished in Italy and venues like I'm at today at Barston, this really is the way to get a lot of fish into your peg and a lot of fish competing to catch a big weight. Obviously, when we were fishing in Italy, bloodworm was more important than any other bait, bloodworm and joker. But today, just because we're back in England now and bloodworm and joker is not so available, I've just used dead maggots, casters and worms like you see me put in there. But it's the same principle. We've got the same principle with bait. We've got the ground bait and we've got the lean breaking down at different times. Now, the first 20 you see here, that's what I'm going to introduce with my hand. I'm going to throw those in. Then I'm going to cup the other 26. Like I said before, we've only got 10 minutes in international matches to get all your bait in. It's the pre-baiting area. Now, I'm going to try and show you today, I'm feeling quite strong, that it is possible to get this amount of bait in 10 minutes. So here we go, 10 minutes to go. I've got 46 balls. I'm going to see if I can get them in. And there you have it guys, 46 balls in the peg. Now I'm sat here at the start of the match in Italy and like today, and I'm really confident I've got enough bait in my peg to really hold the fish and keep them in the peg for the whole 4 hours. One great other little tip I got for you is that when I was fishing in Italy, the balls that you just seen me throw in then, the first 20 I wanted over a metre area square. So one thing I done, I measured a metre from the cup back up there, made a big white very visible mark, so when I'm stood in my box throwing my 20 balls in, I know exactly where a metre is and I can spread the balls over a bit of an area to keep the fish in the peg. Now One other really important thing about the day's fishing was what rig I use, which I'll show you in just a second when I've got my breath back. Right guys, you've just seen me put all my bait in, and one of the great things about feeding your peg like that is that you don't have to top up very often. Now, when you don't have to top up very often, it gives you a lot of time throughout the match to think about how you're fishing and what rig you're using, just to make sure you're using the right rig at the right time. Now, this is just very similar to one of the rigs I used when I was fishing in Italy. I'll start from the very bottom. Now, on a natural venue in Italy, obviously microbarbed hooks are allowed, so I did use a microbarbed hook. I used a size 16 MT9. Now, the great thing about this hook is that the barb's not too big, that when you put your bloodworm on your hook, you don't burst it. You still get really good bait presentation without losing too many fish. You still want a microbarb, so when you strike, you don't lose too many fish, but you want your bait to look right. Now, I've tied that size 16 MT9 onto a brand new hook length material line that we're doing. It's actually fluorocarbon. We used a Maver 012 fluorocarbon, and we found that was about right for the size of fish we were catching. Leading on to that, it was a 20 centimetre hook length, so if I did want to fish the whole 20 centimetres on the hook length, I could do without any shot being anywhere near it. The main line itself, now that wasn't fluorocarbon, this is just monofilament line. It's just a bit nicer when you're putting your shot on. We used 014 for that. Now, the actual bulk and shot itself, you couldn't get much simpler. From the bottom, from the top of the hook length to the bulk was 33 centimetres with 3 number 8 droppers. Now, I've used one dropper very close to the bulk, so that when you drop your rig in, that you don't get the hook come anywhere near the bulk. It just reduces tangle. We just call that a little kicker shot. And then just underneath the kicker shot, we've got 2 more number 8s. So it really is an extremely simple rig. You don't want anything too complicated. You want everything to be dead nice, all measured out perfect. You don't get any tangles, and every rig exactly the same. Leading on to the float, this is very similar to what I used. Now, in Italy, it was 8 to 10 foot deep, so the actual float I used itself was a lot bigger. We used a gram in Italy. We're here today at Barston Lakes. It's only 4 foot deep, so I'm only using a 0.4, but it's all in ratio. 0.4 when it's 4 foot deep, 8 to 10 foot deep, maybe a 0.8 to 1 gram. Now, the float itself, the wire stem was very important, because when we were fishing, what we found is that throughout the day, sometimes the canal could start moving, and it was important to hold your float dead still. So with a wire stem, you could just do that and the float would sit nice. A nice thick, visible plastic bristle. You don't want to mess about too much. You were fishing for bream, they were big fish, so you don't want to be striking at line bites or any little indications. You want to be fishing with a float with a bit of bristle showing, so when the whole bristle disappears, that's when you know when to strike. The actual body shape of the float was like a rugby ball style shape. Nice when the canal was dead still, or when it started to run, you could hold on to it. It was just an all round really nice float. Between the float and the start of the elastic, 50 centimetres. Now, I kept that all the same on every rig. It just keeps you in line, you know exactly what you're doing at all time, and when you're dropping your rig in correctly, you know exactly that when you pick your other rig up, you can do it exactly the same and put your pole in the right position. Now, the elastic we used was very important. We were fishing from weights from 20 to 40 pound in 4 hours of all these sort of size fish, 6, 10, 2 pound fish. So your elastic had to be dead right. To start off with, your elastic had to go back into the pole every time. You can't fish with any elastic hanging out of the pole once you caught the fish. It just increases tangles. Now, the elastic I chose to use was a brand new dual core that we're bringing out. It's 1.2 mil. It's white, so when you're fishing in the heat, it doesn't decay as well as other elastics with lots of ink in. It's the white colour, 1.2 mil. We thought that this was absolutely perfect for catching everything. It's nice and soft, but then it's got quite a bit of backbone, so when you're playing the fish, you can get them in quite quickly. The only one thing I did do with this elastic, which was very important, I put a little twist to it. Instead of having your elastic the whole way through the top kit, what I actually done was only put a metre of the actual hollow elastic through. I tied 1 metre of hollow elastic, then the rest of it I tied to 8 pound line coming up to your bead. Now, what this done, actually only having a metre of elastic in your top kit, was that when you actually strike into the fish, it's still quite soft, so you don't bump any fish on the strike, but when you're bringing the fish back in and you're going to net the fish, there was quite a bit of backbone and it locked up quite quickly. there wasn't any big fish. We weren't fishing for any carp, we weren't fishing for an odd bonus fish. It was just simple, just small skimmers and an odd bream. So that elastic was really perfect, and it did speed you up massively. When you're catching all these, any size skimmer, having just a metre speed it up quite quickly. And when you're fishing for 20 to 40 pound, and because the level of angler is so good when you're fishing these international matches, just your extra kilo, extra pound, extra 200 grams makes all the difference. The second day, I beat the Italian guy at the other end of my section by 100 grams. I wouldn't have done that without this elastic and having everything absolutely perfect. Now, once you've got all your rig right and you've got your bait right, one of the most important things is that you've had the right confidence to use all your kit. Now, to have the right confidence, you've got to have the right pole. Cupping in real big, heavy balls of soil, striking quite hard because you're using microbarb tucks, and chucking your bowl back quite quickly, you have to have a lot of confidence in your pole. Now, for me, the Maver Dark Side 3 is so good, it's unbelievable. I fished for it for the whole 2 weeks. It was 30 to 38 degrees. I chucked it about, I cupped in bigs, I struck really hard, never snapped it once, never had any problems. It's got a great mandrill. The top kits are perfect for all your this type elastic, your softer elastics or your heavy elastic. Just an all-round, a really fantastic pole. And I suggest you really, if you want lots of confidence in the way you're fishing, I suggest you go and get one. Just want to talk to you a little bit about one of my most important bits of kit when I'm doing this style of fishing. It's very, very important when you're doing this style of fishing to be accurate and to hold your float dead still and keep everything right in the same spot every time. Now, it's really important to have the correct spray bar. This is the Maver spray bar. Now, there's 2 or 3 things that are brilliant about this. To start with is that it's the correct length away from your box. So when you're actually fishing like I am now, you lean over, hold the pole, the rest is still past where your hands are. This makes it really stable and nice to use. Also, with it being a little bit further, you've got a lot less chance of breaking your pole because it's just extra stability further away. The second thing about it is the actual foam itself. One side of it has got a great groove. So if you're going to sit and hold your float dead still, you can put the pole into the groove, hold it dead still, really, really accurate. Or even if you do want to put the pole, sit on the pole and move the pole through, you can actually spin the foam round and move the pole through as such, like that. The other great thing about it is if you don't want to fish dead in front of you and you want to fish off to the side a little bit, you don't have to move the whole box. You can just move the spray bar left and right. So some great bits of feature, lovely bit of kit, nice and stable, nice and strong, really, really important when you're doing this style of fishing. Really is unbelievable. On a day like today, with the conditions the way they are, the amount of bait I put in, sometimes I would expect not to catch straight away, or it would have had a bit of a slow initial start, but I can't believe it. I've gone straight in and started catching real good quality bream straight away. And don't they ever fight in this shallow water. I thought this one was a carp when I hooked it. It's a real big bream. And it doesn't take much of them to catch a really nice weight. Right guys, we're an hour and a half into the session and it really is unbelievable. I've had a great start. I've gone straight in, started catching some bream straight away. We're an hour and a half in, I haven't topped up once and I'm catching just as well as when I began. I'm starting to feel like that the sticky leam that I put in with the grey leam is really starting to work now, starting to break down. It's keeping the fish in the peg. And I mean, I've had one every single chuck since I've started. You can really see why when this method was perfected when we fished in Italy, we really did take some beating and ended up beating the Italians. like I said, you get a great stamp of fish as well. When you're putting that amount of bait into your peg, you do really attract the bigger fish. More bait, more fish. The only thing I will say is that if you do start to slow up, or you feel like the fish are going out of your peg, like I can see there, they're getting lots of bubbles, lots of indications in your peg, so there's no need to top up. But if it does start to slow down, you can always just top up with maybe a small ball, and just to bring them back into the area. But it really is a fantastic way of fishing, and you can see why we've done so well as a team. Right guys, what's happened in my peg now? I've been fishing for maybe an hour and 40, and I've had a really good start to the match. I've caught lots of bream straight away. I've had a really good run. Now what I found was that I still feel like the fish are in the area. I'm still getting the odd bubble, still getting the odd indication of fish in the area. But what I want to do now is pin them right back down on a small area so I can catch them quickly. So I'm going to top up exactly how we did and exactly how we fished in Italy. And this is with the same two mixes, exactly the same as again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to top up with a small ball of the ground bait, really rich with worms, casters and dead maggots. And I'm going to top up with a mix of the sticky leam again with lots of grey leam. I'm going to top up with 2 balls, and hopefully that top up will last longer with the 2 balls, because then obviously you'll have this one breaking down very quickly, the ground bait, and then you'll have the sticky leam breaking down a lot slower. So hopefully from the top up I can get the same reaction as I did when I initially started the peg, where there was lots of fish there straight away and it broke down slowly, so I kept the fish in the peg. And another great little tip, if you're going to top up with 2 balls exactly like that, there's 2 different mixes, is if you're using a big Maver pot, a 300ml pot, is that you can fit both in one pot, pot that in, and hopefully that'll last me another maybe 30-40 minutes, even an hour. But I feel like I get the opinion today there's a lot of fish in the area. They're still in my peg, but I really want to home them in on one little area, drop my float right in on it and catch as quickly as possible. So that's my plan, that's what I'm going to do. Right guys, I've had the reaction I really wanted. I topped up with the 2 small balls of 1 small ball with sticky leam, 1 small ball with ground bait, really rich, and I've gone straight in, had a bite straight away. I've actually caught a little carp now, so it just shows you it does attract all species of fish, but a lovely little fish to go along. It really is a great method. When you feed it correctly over a bit of an area, and then you feed a lot of bait with lots of particle in really accurately, it does really get them lined up and feeling confident in your peg. Like you can see then, straight out, rig to the bottom, straight under, another big bream. Such a great stamp of fish as well today. I mean, we're catching them in excess of 3-4 pound, and it doesn't take many of them to catch a really big weight and to do well in a lot of matches, even with carp allowed. Right guys, I touched on this a little bit earlier when I was explaining to you about the rig that I used when I was fishing in Italy. But I just want to go into a little bit more detail and explain to you why I chose this elastic and the way I chose to set it up. First of all, it's the Maver dual core 1.2mm hollow. It's not actually out yet, but it'll be out very, very shortly. It's 1.2 in diameter, which means it's very, very thin and very, very soft, which is quite important when you're fishing for skimmers and bream. But the way we set it up is very, very important. It's probably the most important thing about it. When you're trying to catch a weight like I am today, when you're trying to catch in excess of 40 pound, it's important that when you strike into the fish, firstly you set the hook, and secondly, when you bring the fish back towards you, it's not messing about under the pole tip too much. Just a metre of elastic makes a lot of difference. So the elastic runs straight down from the connector, straight down the pole like normal, and when you break it down, it looks like it's just normal. But from about then onwards, it's tied to 8 pound line. And if I pull that out, all of a sudden, there you go. There's the elastic, loop to loop, and just probably half the length of elastic that would be if I elasticated the whole top kit with elastic. Now that is really, really important. It just stiffens the elastic up, locks it up a little bit quicker when you're fishing for all small fish. The other great thing about this elastic is the colour of it. As you can see there, the white elastic, obviously when it's hot, the sun's out, it deflects the light a lot more, so it will last longer, which is important with thin hollows, because in general, a thin hollow elastic doesn't last that long. So when you've got it white in colours, no added inks, so it lasts a lot longer and obviously deflects the sun. With it being a metre, I don't understand quite why it works so well. It'll always come back in your pole. If you set it tight, if you set it loose, it always comes back in. I don't quite understand why it works so well in the pole, but when you've only got a metre instead of the whole top kit, the elastic will work a lot better. As you can see there, it's just nice and soft. It's not set tight at all, but straight back in the pole every single time for the whole 4 or 5 hours. Now that's really important. You do not want to be wasting any time messing about, tightening your elastics down, trimming them down. You want it every single fish, as soon as you net it, straight back in the pole. All round, a great elastic, caught me a lot more fish in Italy, sped me up a lot, and really, really important. Make sure you choose your elastic correct for the weight of fish that you're fishing for. Right, we've really quite a good time into the session now, and topping up really doesn't seem to have had effect. I'm topping up maybe every second or third fish, but the fish are still in the area and they're still big, so I'm really starting to knock up a weight now. The sort of weight that was good in Italy, but it doesn't take many fish at all this sort of size. If you can catch steady for the whole 4 hours, you can knock up a real decent weight. Right guys, I've got in the water. I don't want to drag this many bream that I've been catching today up onto the concrete banks. So I just want to show you what sort of weights you can catch fishing fishing the way we did in Italy, fishing the way we did on venues like this. I've had a great day's fishing here at Barston. And here you go. There's proof of the pudding. There's probably 60 to 70 pound of bream there. I probably fished for 3 hours. This really is proof of the pudding of what sort of weights you can catch fishing in this way. And there we have it. A lovely day's bream fishing. Right guys, I've got a great new addition to the Maver keep net range. This is called the Maver 2.5 metre compact net. Now it's got some great features. First of all, the best thing about it for me is the shape of the head of the net. Now we all know how difficult it is to get 4 keep nets on your accessory bar. It's really, really difficult with space. The size of pegs nowadays can be quite difficult. The reason why it's called compact is because the head of the net is very, very slim. So getting 4 keep nets on your accessory bar is no problems with this. The head of the keep net is very slim, but once you're past the head, it goes into a normal keep net shape. So it's really safe for all your fish. It's 2.5 metres long, so it's perfect for all your commercials where it's 50, 60, 70 pound limit on fish. And it really is better because you don't have to worry about the net disturbing your margin lines, or maybe when you're playing a fish under the pole tip, you don't have to worry about the fish diving into the net. It's got some other great little features. It's got reinforced bottom 2 rings, so if you're dragging 50, 60 pound up the bank, you don't have to worry about the bottom 2 rings dragging and ripping. It's also got reinforced rings on the 3rd ring up on the inside, so when you go to weigh the fish in, you can pull the ring through, tip your fish safely into the weigh net, and away you go. All round great feature, great product, a lot easier when you're trying to get 4 keep nets on your accessory bar. Really, really good product. Go out and get yourself one.